Today the topic I'm going to present is child labor in Afghanistan. So first, what is child labor? Child labor is people that go to work below the legal age of child labor in their own country and UN. So based on the UN law of child labor, 18 is the boundary of children and adult. People under 18 are all children and the youngest age to work is 15. If there is a special condition, then the age can be 14. And in Afghanistan, 18 is the minimum age for employment. Children between the ages of 15 to 17 are allowed to work that are only not harmful to them, requires less than 35 hours a week, and represents a form of vocational training. Under the law, children are 18 and younger are not allowed to work. In order to have a better understanding of this topic, I'm going to introduce you Afghanistan, this country. So Afghanistan has a population of 13 million and it is located in South Asia. The major religion of Afghanistan is Islam and the rank in Human Development Index is 171 out of 188. So we can know that Afghanistan is a country that is not really well developed. The current situation. Currently, a quarter of children aged between 5 to 14 are working for their families or living. And the AIHRC found that in the 2013 survey that 29% of working children felt the work they did was harmful to their health. These kids usually work as bonded labor in brick kilns, tinsmen and welders in mines or in the metal industry, in agriculture, and on the streets as vendors and shoe shiners and beggars. And all of these jobs will somehow cause illness, injury, and death to these children. And only half of children labor in Afghanistan can go to school, so they don't have the opportunity to receive education. For the causes of child labor, there are many causes, but the most direct one was poverty. In Afghanistan, lack of land, low level of education caused illiteracy, high unemployment, ongoing wars, and a lack of male adult workers in many families are the most important factors that contributing to the continuous poverty, and by extension, child labor. So because most of the families, the adults can't afford the basic needs of the family, so children also have to go to work to help the family. And in Afghanistan, the age of 5 is usually the age that children start to work. For this presentation, my research question is how Afghanistan has changed the situation of child labor. And Afghanistan already did a lot of actions to solve the problem. So first, Afghanistan has its labor law. So as I mentioned before, 18 is the minimum age for employment, and children between the age of 15 to 17 are allowed to work, but they can only work for jobs that won't harm them, and they can work for the most 35 hours a week. And for children that are under 14, they can't work. Second, in April 2010, Afghanistan finally ratified both of the key international treaties related to child labor, which are the International Labor Organization Convention number 182 on the worst forms of child labor, and the Convention number 138 on the minimum age of employment. For the purpose of the Convention number 182, the term the worst forms of child labor comprises first, all forms of slavery, including sale and trafficking of children. Second, the use, procuring, or offering a child for prostitution. Third, the use, procuring, or offering a child for illicit activities. Fourth, work that is likely to harm the health, safety, or morals of children. For the Convention number 139 on the minimum age of employment, 18 is the age that people can do jobs that are jeopardize the health, safety, or morals of people. And for children between age 13 to 15, they can only do works that won't harm their health and development, and they should be able to attend school. In 2014, the Afghan government published a list of 19 hazardous jobs that are banned for children. These jobs include carpet weaving, brick making, and metalwork. For children that are working in carpet sector, they might face physical injuries such as carpal tunnel syndrome, swollen finger joints because they have to sit at the loom and repeat a single movement for many times a day, and because their working condition is lack of light, so children were also suffering from eye problem. For children that are working in the metal industry, they caught or hurt by machines in the industry, so the government banned those jobs for those children. In order to push those laws and conventions, the Afghanistan Labor Ministry sent 28 labor inspectors to different provinces in Afghanistan. There is also an organization called Child Protection Action Network, which is CPAN. CPAN is an organization that is chaired by the Labor Ministry and subsidized by the UNICEF. And this organization works in 31 of 34 provinces in Afghanistan. In each province, there are about 15 to 30 members, depending availability and participation of members. Each province will have a technical assistant to coordinate their works, and this organization helps children that are facing recruitment of child soldiers, forced and underage marriages, and child trafficking. Over the last 4 years, CPAN has helped an average of 3,000 children a year, and each time when CPAN identifies a child labor, they will send the child to NGOs or government agencies to provide them relevant support, including legal aid, shelter, and social services such as health and educational support. So the CPAN, NGOs, and government are actually working together to solve the problem. Different groups of people are holding different attitude based on the child labor. First, the educational people like school principals or teachers. They really want to change the situation and they feel sad for those kids. One of the school principal in the interview said that there was a kid in 10th grade in his school and he was help for his parents to manage their shop. The shop is selling oxygen tanks, and in an accident, a gas tank in the shop exploded, and the student lost an arm and a leg. Even his face was burned because he received a major blow. And every year, many incidents happens in Afghanistan because people are poor, so their children have to help their parents to earn more money in order to support their life. And people in the government really wants to solve the problem too, and they established ratified money laws, but because there's no enough people and money to push those things, so they really can't do anything for the situation. And from the social perspective, many media started to interview those child labor and their families to try to raise awareness and letting more people to know their situation and try to help them. However, although the government organizations try many things to change the situation for child labor, but there are still many things that hinder the changes. So first, the government is lack of capacity. There are many things going on in Afghanistan, such as ongoing wars and refugee problems. So they are really suffering from those situations, and the government can solve many problems at one time. Also because there are many things going on in Afghanistan, so there are minimum budget for them to solve problems. According to the government, most of the budget are using on security, which is 99% of all budgets they have, and only 1% is using on social issue program. And social issue program is not only the child labor problem, so by using this budget, there are really not so much things they can change. Thirdly, the lack of resources, training, and coordination in government also hinder the changes for child labor. So first, lack of resources. It means educational source and money for training. Although members of CPA wants to help the society to change the problem, but because they've never received any training about child labor law, so their help is limited. Last, lack of coordination in government, because usually to solve one child's problem, because the kid will work in several places and those places sometimes are being controlled by different ministries. So if those ministries don't work together, the problem can be solved. Last, although the Afghanistan government has set many laws to reduce child labor, but because there's no inspections of work sites, so those illegal workplaces can keep going because no one can notice them. Also, there's no penalties for violators, so even if they break the law, no one is going to punish them, so the situation can be controlled.